Well, the public hearing is over. Opal made a very articulate, well thought out presentation, but the turnout was pretty sad again. Unfortunately for us Trimet activists, nobody really cares about Trimet. Nobody's thinking about Trimet. They're thinking about the city of Portland. They're thinking about Donald Trump, but they're not thinking about Trimet, and they don't really care what Trimet's doing, and that's really the bottom line with this activism we have here. We're a very lonely bunch. There's no mainstream media coverage of any dissenting point of views, and Opal made a valiant, articulate presentation, but they're making it to people who can't hear you. They can't hear you. They can't hear you, and they don't want to hear you. So let's watch the presentations, and then I'm going to put in Mcfarlane's response and comment.
Morning. My name is Desiree Harris, and I just want to clarify that I'm not speaking on behalf of KBOO.
Oh, darn, okay.
I am taping on behalf of KBOO, however. I'm a supporter of Opal. I'm not speaking on behalf of Opal. I am a professor of English at Washington State University, Vancouver, and a co-founder of the Collective for Social and Environmental Justice there, and I'm not speaking on behalf of them either. So I'm going to speak partly as an English professor and partly as, though I am white, I'm also the child of a refugee of the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. So I just want to say, first off, that the etymology of the word metaphor is actually, metaphors are often associated with vehicles, and the etymology of metaphor is actually to bear or to carry. So I have been carried on Trimet for many years, commuting back and forth to the university in Vancouver, and when that commute began to accumulate at about the rate of about 4 hours a day to get out there and back, I started driving a hybrid vehicle, and so I'm to my ever-loving shame. So when I got on the bus this morning to come down to this hearing, I felt like I was stepping into a very diverse, loving, and supportive community that I didn't realize how much I missed. So I just want to state that at the outset. In listening to the hearing and the discussion and the comments before we got onto this segment, I repeatedly heard the word deploy used. I repeatedly heard about capital projects. I heard about fair inspections. I heard about operations, through a very narrowly technical and insular language. I heard about keeping systems safe. I heard about the inevitability of systems expanding, particularly policing expanding. I heard the use of the word decode, ramping up, business as usual, fleet, response time, crime rates and statistics, AAA ratings, debt services, strategic guidelines, asset managements, let's see, what else? Front lines, I heard the word frontline used several times. I heard, we're not doing anything but what we've been doing, in the past. I heard discussion of individual components. I heard about safety metrics, safety targets. So what I heard was actually a highly militarized rhetoric, And, I have a lifelong interest in Hannah Arendt's discussion of the banality of evil, right? Not because, just because as a refugee, as a child of a refugee, those issues continue to concern me. And the ways in which we can become so insular from the realities of the people whose lives we affect. Not because we're somehow lacking in compassion, but because our language and our logic and our rhetoric carries us to a particular place. So I want to suggest to you that it is actually fundamentally irrational and ultimately inhumane and indefensible to talk about ramping up vehicles for criminalizing low-income people of color and using funds that could so obviously advance the well-being and dignity of those same communities that have been forced out from the center of the city to the periphery. And those dynamics of gentrification, I want to just remind us all, are part of a long, long historical arc of exploiting and dispossessing communities of color. I ask you to not move forward with this plan and to instead redirect those funds to low-income fares. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the Trimet board. My name is Canaan. I'm here as an organizer with Asians for Black Lives Portland. A large part of our group's work goes towards educating and organizing Asian American communities in the Portland area to unlearn and dismantle structural racism. We recognize that until the most oppressed among us are free, that none of us are free. We are here today in solidarity with Opal and Bus Riders Unite in opposition to the $11 million which Trimet has budgeted to expand fare enforcement and build a new transit police station with holding cells and interrogation facilities. As policymakers, all of your jobs is to assess the needs of the community you serve and to particularly value the longer-term concerns as well as the immediate suffering of the most vulnerable and disempowered. Instead, many of those who will be most adversely affected by this line item are those who most depend on Trimet's transit services. We implore you to consider the full extent of the ramifications of your actions. There's simply no way to morally reconcile the use of $11 million of Trimet's budget to expand and transfer existing police facilities to the convention center to the Rose Quarter with Trimet's supposedly enshrined values of, quote, doing the right thing by being responsive, inclusive, and accountable. That's taken directly from Trimet's website. Policing and detaining the people who depend most critically on Trimet services does not respond to the need for more reduced fare programs. It rejects rather than includes important segments of Portland's population. And the fact that this line item was inserted into the budget with no community say-so or involvement demonstrates how it does nothing to further Trimet's accountability. The constructs of our social, political, and economic systems treat black bodies and lives as disposable, irrelevant, categorically subordinate. Wherever there is policing and enforcement, it is people of color and people of limited means who overwhelmingly bear the costs and negative consequences. We are here to explicitly state that Black lives matter, full stop. In our own Asian communities, we are all too familiar with the gradient of discrimination and abuse that corresponds to the darkness of our skin color. A recent study found that Black people are greatly overrepresented in every part of Multnomah County's criminal justice system, and that the state of Oregon incarcerates its Black residents at a higher rate than almost any other state in the Union. As decision makers and power holders of Trimet, you need to recognize where you currently stand. Trimet is complicit and at the center of perpetuating the systemic oppression. We strongly urge you to vote against passing this budget and echo the demands of Bus Riders Unite for no increased fare enforcement, a budgeting process that includes community, unarmed police force on transit, no unaffordable fares, and no immigration and customs enforcement on buses and trains whatsoever. Only by acting in the best interests of the community that Trimet exists to serve can you act in the best interests of Trimet. On behalf of Asians for Black Lives Portland, thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you. Members of the board, I'm Hui Yong, Executive Director of Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. The way this agency spends public dollars without public input is not right. When you make, wow, that's a fast 3 minutes. When you make changes to the system, you are impacting people's lives, their ability to get to the places where they work, live, learn, pray, and play. In the 2018 budget proposal, we yet again see Neo Mcfarlanes Trimet make a massive capital investment that riders aren't asking for, and no mention of a low-income fare. Instead, a police station with holding cells and interrogation rooms will cost $11 million. We aren't interested in debating the semantics of the word jail. We're interested in authentic community input, controlling the policies that will impact transit riders. If your riders can't meaningfully impact your budget, why are we even here? What's the point of these meetings? Does it mean anything to this board that 1,000 people have signed the Opal petition to stop the project? Community participatory budgeting would reverse the decline in ridership you're experiencing. We imagine a future where transit continues to become more affordable. we can work with you to substantially reduce the number of transit police. We can help you define safety in a way that doesn't put men with guns and dogs on buses and trains. We can introduce you to the young people of color, low-income people, and undocumented immigrants who are not interested in seeing more police on their way to school, work, or to social services. We can reimagine public transportation together. At what point does this board say no to Neil Mcfarlane's capital obsession? Black and brown Portlanders are asking for fair relief, not more police. It is damaging to Portland's reputation, and you should be embarrassed a little bit that you need us to tell you that this was a bad idea. You have other capital needs, such as buses, maintenance, and bus stop improvements. You're on the hook to pay interest on yet another bond instead of supporting a low-income fare, youth pass expansion, service enhancements, and supporting more green jobs for bus drivers. Under Neil Mcfarlane's leadership, this agency is failing its riders. These are the rushed decisions of an agency that has been unaccountable for too long. We ask the board to join the community in demanding accountability and saying, jail, no. Thank you.
Those are excellent testimonies, well-spoken, thoughtfully prepared. I agree 100% with everything that they said. I think they were absolutely right on. Now, let's see how Mcfarlane answers them.
Regarding the police precinct at the Rose Quarter, recall again that there was a briefing on this and ultimately a board resolution that was adopted in December to move ahead with this. So the budget basically just reflects those past decisions of the board, which
Here he's bringing to light that they've already made these decisions long before now. They didn't ask the public. They had no intention of asking the public. The public is just an annoyance. But he's telling them now that we've already passed all of this. So why are we even talking about it? So you already see that you can't talk to him about this.
I think we're well vetted in public session, 2 different public sessions over last year. And
what public sessions is he talking about? You know, they do nothing to solicit input from the public. They do nothing. Trimet doesn't tweet these meetings are happening. Trimet doesn't put them on their Facebook. They do nothing. The media does nothing. Nobody knows about these meetings except that tiny subculture of transit bloggers like me and Opal and the people that are on the Twitter, you know, a dozen of us maybe. So when he says we've already publicly vetted this, he's a lying piece of shit, okay? You know, he really is a dickhead. You know, when I watch him now in situations like, I realize what a complete asshole he really is, and what a fucking technocratic, neoliberal piece of shit he really is.
Again, we are incurring costs right now associated with the police precinct, which is a couple blocks from here. It's a leased facility. It's got a lot of built-in limitations to its functionality and use. What we're doing is actually transferring that lease, which is current expense, over to a new location, which I think actually is more favorable and will be, frankly, lower cost for us in the long term.
Here he is saying we've been paying for the police state. We're not going to stop paying for the police. He's admitted we want to expand the police state in this clip. He says we can do more. He's completely on the neoliberal police state side here. He's got no heart for the riders or the Opal members or anybody else. It's just one excuse after another here. You know, it's hard to watch this stuff.
And we've done the return on investment analysis that demonstrates that. I think also quite admirably this is a partnership with PDC and Metro related to the construction of the headquarters hotel and its necessary infrastructure.
Did he just say it's helpful for constructing the hotel and its infrastructure? I mean, you have all this evidence about where Trimet really is, and it's got nothing to do with riders. I mean, you can watch it for yourself. Do you think this guy cares about you? You think that board cares? Just listen to this.
Including the parking garage. And so that's been an economic development goal of the region for probably 30 years.
Economic development, quotes, economic development, AKA crony capitalism.
I think I was involved in actually the early steps of that. So again, we think that it's a very admirable investment, both from a very narrow transit cost effectiveness standpoint, as well as one that advances other initiatives for the community. And I would just note the fare inspection investments that's in the budget, I believe, is important. It is important to have some integrity associated with the fare system. If we're asking somebody to pay, we should be asking everybody to pay.
And here you see raw neoliberalism in its most grotesque form. He says that since some people pay, everybody should pay. He has no heart that some people don't actually have $2.50. He can't see it. He can't see that there are people that are poor. He just says everybody should pay. He's got no heart. He's got no soul. He's just a heartless career technocrat following the agenda that's been set down for him. And it's just painful to watch. I just find it painful.
We've made very clear statements about the low-income fare being a priority, particularly if there's additional revenues associated with the transportation package.
See what these neoliberal scum are up to, right? They're putting the tax increase package or attaching that to the low-income fare. We can't give any low-income fares unless you pass this tax increase. Oh my God.
Tale of two Trimets. Let me tell you now a little bit about that second Trimet tale. That of an agency that is slowly strangling from a union contract that desperately needs a reset.